Greetings, conquerors. Today's very special guest is Miss Autumn Prather. We're going to talk about life and career and a whole bunch of other stuff. We're going to talk about books and publishing. We're going to talk about just moving forward. What do you have to do when you've decided that you are moving forward in your life? What steps do you need to take? We're going to talk about it all. TBR Live. Interesting conversation with interesting people. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Our very special guest today is Miss Autumn Prather. We're going to talk about life and career, and we might finally mess around and tell some jokes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Happy to be here.
All right, first standard question. Who is Autumn Prather?
Wow. Well, how much time do we have?
We got
Well, again, thank you so much for inviting me on. I am Autumn Prather. I am a mother. I am a social entrepreneur. I am all about leaving a legacy to our kids. I'm all about developing leaders and just living life to the fullest. I'm a graduate of Tennessee State University, born and raised here in Nashville. So I'm sort of a unicorn, as they say. I guess we all are. And I think, of course, went to Whites Creek High School. So we have that in common as well. So that's who I am.
Okay, very good. So first thing, social entrepreneurship and social business. How did you decide that that's where you were, that's where you wanted to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started working in the community as a young girl. I was involved in several leadership organizations designed to give back to the community. And I fell in love with the humanitarianism of that, being a philanthropist. So um, anything that I've done, either through my own or through my sorority, has always been community driven. And so when I decided to do my nonprofit, I wanted to make that one of the highlights of our nonprofit, giving back to the community, always having a social mindset and understanding that people they need help. And so we desire to give back.
Okay. So where does the love, I can hear it all in your statement. Where does the love for people come from?
Yeah, I saw my mom. My mother was my best friend. And I watched her give of herself and give of her time and her talent and her treasure to people. And so I learned it from the best, and just kind of took on that legacy of her and her, her openness and wanting to bless others. And I kind of took that in and made it my own as well.
Okay. So your business.
Mhm.
So most people I know, it evolved from someplace else. So when you decided to start your company or start your organization or however it worked out, did it grow into where you are now, or did you come out saying this is what I want to do and this is where I'm at?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't have any expectations. It was really a passion project. It started out, just something that I thought, okay, well, my daughter and I will just hold this event this one time, right? And maybe it'll be good, maybe not. But to our surprise and, such a blessing, it was extremely well received. What we do is we champion the sacred bonds of the mother and daughter relationship. And so again, my mother me having that relationship with her, and then me forming and being intentional about having that relationship with my own daughter. Our nonprofit known as the Mother and Daughter Experience, we want to promote a healthy relationship between moms and daughters. And so we set out to have our first breakfast with mothers and daughters, or grandmothers and granddaughters, just women and girls. If you're a woman and you have a hand in raising a young girl, then you were invited to our breakfast. And so our first breakfast was back in 2019. We had over 50 attendees, and people were asking, well, what's next? Are you going to do this again? This was amazing. Might want to keep this going. And we were like, oh, wow. We only thought maybe we'd do it one time and that's it. So now we're going into our fifth one in 2023, and they've grown exponentially every year. So I think we're here to stay. And as long as women and girls enjoy the fellowship and the artistic expression that we offer every year at our breakfast, we'll keep doing it.
That's good stuff. So with that in mind, I've seen some of the things that you posted with you and your daughter.
Mhm.
I'm convinced that is such a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
I haven't seen a lot of that over the past several years. I've seen relationships be the other way. So
Hmm.
so so how
Hmm.
how how do you maintain that level of love, that level of how do you maintain all of that?
Yeah, well, it's extremely intentional. It's very goal driven. When I had my daughter, I was a single mom. I was single at the time. And so I had, um, sort of some double whammies, the stigma, sort of the statistics and things of that nature. And I really made it my mission to debunk all of those things. I was not going to fall into any sort of category of what, the stigma of being a single Black mom was. So I really educated myself on, just learning how to be a better mother. Nobody can be a great, I mean, there's no perfect mother, right? But we can all learn to be a good mother. And so that's what I set my heart on, was being the best mother that I could be, and to really pour into my daughter um, a lot of the things that I didn't get as a young girl, a lot of things that I saw my friends that were lacking, some of those things. I made it my mission to make sure that my daughter was well equipped with some of those things that she's going to need later on in life, right? And so again, very intentional about the relationship I wanted to have with her. Now you have the teenage years, right? You have the social pressures, you have the internet, you have social media, all of those things coming at you, and you're trying to maintain this particular level, with your daughter, and you have to fight those. You really have to put on your war face and your armor and go to battle. And I decided to do that. It's really just a conscious decision, and it's a daily effort, really, to have that kind of relationship. And another thing is our foundation was laid through love, wisdom, and understanding. I always say I loved my daughter from the first moment I knew that she was growing inside of me. I didn't look at her as a burden. She wasn't taking anything away from my life. In fact, she added to it. And so therefore I incorporated her in every aspect of my life. Um, and she learned, that was some life lessons there. Number two, understanding. Understand that I was once a little girl like her, and I had to go through my phases. I had to um, understand that my mouth was smart, when I was that age. So I could be a little bit more understanding, and I understood where she was coming from, and I tried to enter her world, and I tried to make sure that I was up to date on the latest jargon and the slang of the time and the music. I kept myself educated with her generation so that I could relate to her. That's that understanding. And then the knowledge and the wisdom. Um, I let her know I'm the mother. I know more than you. Believe me, what you're doing is not new. I've been there, I've done that. And I would rather her come to me for information than to try to get it from the internet or friends or peers. And I told it to her straight. I gave her the right terminology for certain body parts, and I let her know this is correct, this is not correct. And so that's how I laid that foundation for our relationship.
That's good stuff. That is good stuff. So foundation. I love that word. How important is it to have a solid foundation, or even a solid, consistent? That's the word I want. Consistent support system as we're
Mm.
sort of traveling through life. How important is that to you?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. So very important. I'm a published author as well. And so in my book, I dedicated a whole chapter called The Viable Village, where it talks about that very thing, that foundational support system that is paramount in raising our kids today. You know, it goes the old African proverb, right? It takes a village to raise a child. And I found that to be true. My support system was there. Grandparents, parents, cousins, sorority sisters. You have to build that foundation. You have to really let people know what you need and not be afraid, to receive the help if they're asking, what can I help you with? What can I do? You can't be so independent that you're like, oh, I got it. You don't want to be a burden to anybody, so you don't accept the help. No, you accept the help.
Yes, indeed.
Because you have to be well mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. You have to be well, um, in order to take care of your kids. You just can't function without that wellness, and your support system, your foundation, your village. They will provide all of that. And so I wholeheartedly champion, the foundation, the support. And I give praise to mine as often as I can because they really helped me.
Okay. All right. I want to get into your book a little bit. This is interesting stuff. So my first question is, knowing how difficult writing is,
Mm.
how did you decide I'm gonna author a book? Was it a progression, or you just wake up one day and say, okay, I'm writing a book? How'd that
You
go?
know, honestly, it was literally someone called me and said, you should write a book. And I said, okay. It was the height of the pandemic, right? We were on lockdown. There was nothing to do, right?
Right.
We were all working from home. We couldn't go anywhere but to the grocery store or to the doctor's appointments, just essential stuff. I'm at my computer all day anyway. And a publisher by the name of Tim Bond, he's a Weiss Creek alumni too.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I'm sure you know who that is with True Vine Publishing. He reached out to me because, again, he saw, like you, some of the things that I was posting on social media. And he was intrigued and he was like, hey, you have a story. You have an audience that you could talk to about your motherhood journey and your um, empowerment of women. And he was like, I think you should write a book. And I said, well, number one, how do I do that? And number two, how much is it going to cost? But deciding to do it was extremely easy because, again, we were on lockdown, nothing to do but work from home. I was already in front of my computer. And honestly, I love to create. And just gleaning from some of the posts, some of the speaking engagements that I had already done, just kind of gleaning from those things helped me form the book. And of course, my own experiences. So I had to learn though a lot. The learning curve was huge because you think you know how to write a sentence. You think you know how to write, a
Mhm.
paragraph. You've written thesis statements or research papers, right? No, that's not like writing a book. You really have to dig deep and get really um you have to go in and find those emotions and use those emotions to color the story and to make those words on those pages come alive. So it was a whole new world for me. It was a great skill to learn. And I enjoyed the process so much.
Very good. So this is an unfair question. There's no easy way to answer this question. I know this in
Okay.
advance.
Okay.
Is there a favorite chapter? Is there a favorite sentence or phrase? Or, because the stuff you write is creative space is like your kids. I know you can't pick favorites, but
Right. What
if
can
you
I
could, do
what
you have
can
a
I
favorite?
choose? Oh my goodness. Um, well, I'll answer that in two ways.
Okay.
I do have a favorite chapter, and it's called Plot Twist. And it's within the seasons because the book is called Preparing a Fruitful Harvest, One Mother's Pursuit of Generational Health. And the total book just gives my experience as a mom raising my daughter to be productive, positive, and to pursue her dreams. And so with with my experience, I had to also talk about how the death of my mother affected all of us. And so the section that it's in and the season that I write this in is known as winter. Because of course we're talking about preparing a harvest, and our harvest comes in the fall. So I had to go through all of the seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. And winter was without a doubt the hardest because it's the season in which my mom passed. And the reason it's my favorite chapter is because it was the first time I had ever deeply experienced the emotions of my mom's death. Actually writing it out, recalling and reliving the day in which she passed, recalling and reliving the emotions, just every detail about her death I put in that chapter. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was very therapeutic for me because I had never talked about it in that way. I had never went that deep with it. And so being able to write about it in this book was extremely cathartic and therapeutic. And I enjoyed that. Now, overall, the book contains journal style pages where at the end of each section, I'm asking the reader to reflect on what they just read and to write out their own interpretation of what they're going to do as it relates to that chapter. So that's also a favorite part of my book.
Okay. Very good. That's a great way to answer an unfair question. That's fantastic. So, in your experience as a writer, I guess you had to figure out a technique that works for you, and however that goes. So
Mhm,
to writers that have decided I want to get into this,
mhm.
what's a couple things you can share that would kind of help them along the way?
Oh, wow. Well, number one, be coachable, be teachable. Just go ahead and just say, you know what? I don't know nothing about writing. I'm going to let the experts teach me about this. new world. So you can't go in with this I know it all attitude. You can't go in with, I know what I want to say, and it can't be challenged or it can't be deleted. Because I tell you, there was one chapter that I wrote, and it was specifically about the teenage years that I experienced with my daughter. And my editor was like, no, this doesn't flow. This doesn't relate back to your main point. This does not fit. And I was upset. I was like, wait a minute, but these are my words. These are my experiences. These mean something to me. How are you just gonna X them out, a whole chapter? And so, but what I had to understand was that there was a certain energy and there was a certain vibe that the book was given. And this particular chapter would have deterred from that. Okay. And I had to look at it from a reader's standpoint as well, not just a writer's, and what would keep my audience interested and how they could actually relate to that. So in the end, I understood it was for the best, but in the moment, I was extremely upset about it. So any budding authors, you just have to really be mindful that your publisher or your editor or your writing coach, they are the experts and they know what's best. And so just trust them and they won't lead you astray.
Very good. That's good to know. I know people who wanna do this all the time, and that's one of the questions that comes up. How do I do this or that? And so thank you for sharing
Mhm.
that. I want to shift gears a little bit. Business, people who are starting or they're wanting to get into it or they've done it a while.
Mhm.
One of the toughest things is that moment when business is not going the way that we would like for it to go, or things are not progressing the way that we would like to. So, in those moments, if you've ever had any of those moments,
Mhm.
how do you push through? How do you decide that I'm going to maintain? I'm gonna keep pushing.
Hmm. Very good question. Oh, yeah, I've had lots of those moments. I think the first thing is to always go back to your why. Always have to remember why you even started the business, whether it's for profit, nonprofit, it doesn't matter. What is your why? Okay, because you've invested a lot of time, a lot of money. You've sacrificed probably some of your family,
Mhm.
as far as being away from them, trying to go out and promote. And it's just a lot of of sacrifices that goes into building a business. And so you don't want all of that to be in vain, right? So you have to go back to your why. When I've gotten into those places, I've had um to really reflect and be like, okay, I can sulk and I can get down and I can um feel sorry for myself and I can make up all of these excuses as to why I can't go on. Or I can ask who and not how. So you have to go back and say, okay, who can help me get back on track? Who can guide me um, out of this pit hole that I'm in right now? Um, because again, going back to what we talked about with the foundation, in family, there's also a foundation in business. You have to have the mentors and you have to have the business coaches and maybe even your life coach, a therapist. It does, whoever your support system is, who's building you up to be this great business person, have a conversation with them. Ask them, what did you do to come up out of this slump? Um, what can you give me as far as tools and techniques to maybe better streamline and or automate systems for me to have a better outcome. So you always have to have those people in your corner. And that's what I've done in the past to get up out of those situations.
Okay, very good. Okay, so here's one that I tend to ask brothers this question, but I want to see what you think
Mhm.
about this. Knowing when to pivot. So a bad moment or bad quarter or bad month doesn't have to mean that my idea is bad or my
Mhm.
I shouldn't be doing this. But sometimes there comes a moment where we need to pivot and just do
Mhm.
something maybe a different way.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you're
how
right.
do you determine what's some ways that you can see that determines okay, I need to do something a little bit different, not necessarily change my whole thing, just my operations need to be a little
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say never change the goal, just change the process by
Okay.
which you're getting to the goal. And so one of the ways that I like to assess is through surveys, feedbacks, you know, evaluations. Anytime that I have an event or I put on, maybe if it's a virtual workshop or I'm speaking to a group or, whatever it is, I always really like to get solid feedback at the end of what worked for you, what didn't work, what could have, how could we have used our time better? What future topics would you like discussed? Um, just kind of give me some information so that I can figure out the best path to go on. And so I use those comments and that feedback and suggestions all the time to pivot. And here's another thing that I do that is maybe not is not as mainstream, but sometimes when I get an idea, I'll just put it out there. It's kind of like throwing it against the wall and see if it'll stick. Um, and if I don't get any response, and if I don't get any traction, okay, I'll reel it back in. No harm, no foul. I didn't necessarily make a big announcement about this is what I'm about to do. I just kind of did it just to see. Sometimes it works. Sometimes people pick right up on it and they run with it. And I'm like, okay, we're going to keep that. So not too it's a little unorthodox, but really honestly and truly and seriously, getting feedback from your audience is key to knowing when to pivot, when to change course. And sometimes if you don't do that, some people don't, maybe not, they haven't done that before, getting evaluations and all. Sometimes just kind of having a talk with yourself and knowing your limits and your boundaries, you have to ask yourself, is this taking me to a dark place that I don't like? Am I spending way too much time trying to work on this that I could be working on something else that would be more profitable or more meaningful? You kind of have to have those conversations as well, and then just make the decision.
Okay, very good. It can be a challenge for people. You know, some people when they make up their minds and going in a certain direction,
Yeah.
it can be challenging for some people to sort of abandon what they were thinking is the right, yeah, or really back in, yeah,
Really back in. Yeah, and I get that because that's our baby, right?
yeah, right,
That's our thing. That's who we are. But sometimes we have to also know that we're human. And sometimes a great idea just isn't received.
right.
And it's okay because you have the capacity to generate other great ideas. And so just start over and start again and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's another unfair one.
Okay.
And I'll qualify this after I ask the question. Quality service and customer service.
Mm.
Now, these are ideally we should have them both. The
Hmm. Hmm.
problem is to do great quality. Sometimes things can take a little bit longer, and sometimes customer service may suffer. So, what's the ratio in doing what we do with having the best quality and having the best customer service? What should the ratio be in your view?
Hmm, good question. That requires a bit of thinking here. Let's see. I mean, first of all, customer service should be a part of your business model, right? You will
Yes,
not survive if
absolutely.
you don't have customer service. It's just that's a no-brainer. But when you add in that quality piece, and like you said, quality can take time. Um, there could be some delays because you want a quality product. So what I found is that exceeding expectations, or I like to say, under promise, but over deliver. That's kind of my motto: under promise, over deliver. And always stay in communication with your customer. So if you see that it may take an extra day or two, maybe an extra week, a simple email, text, phone call, however it is that you interact with your customer, to say, you know, this is going to take a few more days than we initially thought because we want it to be perfect for you. We want you to have the best experience. We want you to have a memorable experience with us. So it's going to take a few more days. We appreciate your patience. You know, 5% off your next order for the delay. All of that is quality to me. And being able to preempt that and get ahead of that and not have to backtrack and apologize and try to do damage control after the fact, that hurts worse, right? If you can be in front of it and if you can state what it is that your goal is with having to have it delayed or whatever, I think that's the best quality customer service you can give someone. Always staying in constant communication.
Very good. Very, very good. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So building a business, being successful, um, and maintaining mental health.
Mm.
How in the world you're supposed to be the very best you can be and maintain your mental health at the same time? What are your thoughts about
Wow. I tell you, you have the best questions. I tell you. Wow. Now that's a good one. Now, and I dedicate a chapter in my book just to mental health. It's called Therapy is Necessary, because I'm a whole proponent for seeking therapy.
that?
Um, but as it relates to business, again, you have your foundation, you have your systems of support. One of those people probably should be a therapist, because building a business is no joke.
Right.
Um, and again, if your physical health is in jeopardy, your mental health is in jeopardy. If your mental health is in jeopardy, your physical health is in jeopardy. So it's all health. You know, you need to be a healthy person, mind, body, and soul. Um, I will push therapy all day. And therapy can look different for different people. Again, I think I mentioned a life coach. If you don't really want to say you're in therapy, okay, well, you're seeing a life coach. Well, same thing. You're bouncing off your feelings and ideas with a neutral party who's licensed to give you, you know,
Mhm.
tools and techniques to handle your mental health. So again, always have those people in your back pocket to talk to learn from, to bounce things off of. Mentors, very, very essential to have. Always have someone that's in your industry that you can ask questions of, you know. Um, and to try to combat some of that mental anguish that could come up. They can help you maybe try to avoid those pitfalls that they went through. So if you're talking to them and you're constantly meeting with them and asking questions, they can probably try to steer you, around those things. Um, but personally, for me, I with me, I had to really spend time and understand my purpose in life, my mission, my vision. I had to really get clear on what those were. So, okay, my purpose is to serve others. Now, whether that's through my words, through events, through shared experiences, I'm serving others. So, if one person gets it, I've completed my mission. If 1,000 people get it, I've completed my mission because I've served through whatever vessel is there for me at the time. That's how I've handled my mental health because you're not always going to see the large numbers. You're not always going to have the glorious feedback. Even with the evaluations I talked about earlier, those are not always good. They're not always positive, but those can help you too because they let you know what not to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that helps your mental health when you're clear about what you know you can do, what you know your strengths are, what you know your gifts are, your talents, and you're putting your best foot forward and you're working in excellence, and you've at least impacted one person, you've done your job.
Very good. Okay, I only got a couple more things. This is good stuff. I promise I'm gonna let you go short. So the first thing is for a servant saying yes. It's pretty easy because it's in your DNA. But when do you know when to say no?
Mm,
How do you determine that?
yeah. Well, you'd have to ask, does what I'm being asked to do get me back to my mission? Does what I'm being asked to do align with my vision? Does what I'm being asked to do speak to who I am and my value systems? Because any contradiction to any of that is wasted energy, is wasted time. Because if it's not going to fuel my energy and my energy source, if it's not going to fuel my love and my passion of what I'm called to do on this earth, then it's a waste of my time. So that's when you have to say no. Or you have to say, at this time, my values and my vision do not align with your ask. In the future, if there's some other way for us to connect, and we have clearly discussed what my goal is and my mission, and we agree, then I'm happy to oblige.
That's a great answer. That is a great answer. Thank you very much for that.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
the fear of failure. I've been talking about everything else just to get to this. The fear of failure. What are your thoughts about that? So many people will not move
Mm-hmm.
because they are afraid to fail. What do you think?
Yeah, it's real. And I can honestly say I've been there. Um, I'm sure you've heard of imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah, I had that bad. I had that bad because, you know, as a speaker and as an author, you wonder what I have to say. Is it really is it really needed? Is it valued? Is anybody really going to listen to me? Like, why would they listen to me? Like, what's so special? And I dealt with that a lot. Um, but what I had to learn is that I'm an expert in my own experiences. Nobody else has lived my experiences the way I have. Nobody else can speak on what I have endured, what I've been exposed to. I have that knowledge. And believe it or not, somebody else is going through the exact same thing that I'm going through or that I've gone through. And the only way for them to understand that they are not alone is for me to speak about it. And it's for me to relate to them. And that's what starts the healing process. When we can speak about our experiences and have that vulnerability and that transparency, that's what creates healing. And so the fear of failure cannot be, because what you're going to say is all about love and healing and helping the next person. So how can that be failure? That's not failure.
Right.
That's success.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you have to train your mind to think about those things when you feel those feelings of failure, or your fear of failure creeping up. You have to say, no, I have to do this because what I'm about to do is going to help somebody else. And that's success.
Okay. Very good. Very, very good. Okay, this is the last thing, I promise. Do you have anything that you want to promote? Are you about to cut an album? Are you gonna go somewhere and sing? What's coming up that you got going on?
Well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I would like to announce that I am building my speaking business. I am available for keynotes, for luncheons, brunch, conferences, retreats, colleges, school districts. If you would like for me to come and deliver a relevant word through this reliable vessel, uh, call me. You can reach me at Autum at WeSpeakLegacy.com. My whole platform is about talking about life, leadership, and legacy. And what I impart in you, I encourage you to go back to your communities and your families and to teach our young people the same thing, so that we'll have generational health and that all families can get healed.
Very good. The book. Where can we find the book?
The book is available on Amazon, Target, Walmart, Books a Million, Barnes and Noble. It's called Preparing a Fruitful Harvest, One Mother's Pursuit of Generational Health. And it is available. Go get it.
Absolutely. Yeah, y'all go pick that book up. That is good stuff. All right, Miss Autumn, that's all that we have for today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this. I've been waiting to do this a long time, and I certainly appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for asking me. And, let's connect again.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.